States as a citizen. Where treacherous is crossed off, and despicable is handwritten.
No, I'm trying to, but
handwritten.
they got sprung this one on me.
Because naturally it wasn't treacherous. Treachery comes from within. So they crossed off, and then on it goes, and then to give the authorization for the use of military force, it says that the President is authorized to use all necessary and appropriate force against these nations, organizations, or persons. He is not even gender neutral. This was not designed for 20 years later. And that's why we're at Yemen, that's why we're all over the world sowing mayhem. And not only is this the absurdity of what we're doing overseas, this piece of paper, draft, and crossed off words, and not even gender neutral, it's expensive. These wars are expensive. We've got a $22.6 trillion deficit. And we pay $400 billion a year in interest. Who likes paying interest in this room? I know I don't. And so we've got to change things. And both parties are responsible for this kind of absurdity. Keeping these wars going. President Bush, Vice President Cheney started it, this whole team. Senator Obama, President Obama, and Vice President Biden kept it going. Nothing changed. Now President Trump is escalating even more, and the deficit soared, and they keep taking away our personal liberties. Edward Snowden was right. He told the truth. Why is he a pariah? Stuck in some embassy in Moscow somewhere. So these are the motivators for me running. I was there for this absurdity. And yes, the Iraq War is a different use of military force. That's just absurd that Saddam Hussein had weapons of mass destruction. The biggest lie in American history, the biggest strategic blunder in American history. We pay for the consequences today, not only in lost lives, but in our treasury, but also in a generation. I came up through the Vietnam era, so I know about Vietnam veterans coming home and needing care. And now we have a whole new generation of Middle East veterans coming home needing care. And that's libertarian, these are libertarian issues, always have been. Against foreign entanglements, against deficits, for our personal liberties, and for telling the truth. So I'm proud to be a libertarian. And I know if we have a few minutes, I'll take any questions or comments or insults.
Wow, knows his audience.
I know you've got to ask me about the Second Amendment.
Oh, I'm not going to ask you about the Second Amendment. I was wondering if you could, last time you came to New Hampshire, the crowd was not quite as big as this one. And I was wondering if you could just retell that story very quickly that you told us about when you went into the CIA to hear about their evidence of weapons of mass destruction, because I find that story fascinating.
Yes, before voting on the Iraq, this was the Afghanistan resolution. A year later came the drumbeats of war for Iraq, regime changes, Iraq, weapons of mass destruction. So I had to vote on it, so I went to the CIA there in McLean, Virginia, through the gates and set up a meeting. It was me alone, and I kind of expected to have the director, George Tenet, or not him, maybe some of the other bigwigs. And when I came in, it was mid-level, maybe 20 mid-level analysts. And we went into a room, and they started rolling out satellite pictures and different things. And what I could tell from the briefing was that they were not convinced this was emphatic evidence that Saddam Hussein had weapons of mass destruction. You could just tell from their body language. They'd roll up a satellite picture on the table and kind of shuffle a little bit. And I'm not a great surveillance analyst. I didn't know what I'm looking at, a bunch of grainy pictures from some satellite. What the heck is that? Then they handed me a aluminum tube and said, we intercepted this. This is how you centrifuge uranium. And so we got it from Saddam Hussein aluminum tube. And I'm looking at this tube going, I could go down to Mancini's, my local hardware store, and buy this tube. So that all combined together, no George Tenet, no big level people coming. I'm a senator, I got to vote on this in 2 weeks. Come on, guys, show up. This is big, we're going to war. No, it was some mid-level people shuffling away going, yeah, there's really nothing here. and the fact that there was no convincing evidence. I came back to my colleagues. I said, I was just there at the CIA. We're going to war. You got to go down there and see what they have. And they're all going, Link, the train's left the station. What? The train has not left the station. They can stop this. So it's a tragedy, a big American tragedy. We pay with the consequences today. And lost lives, lost American credibility, generation of veterans. I've been to Walter Reed, believe me. These are kids. It's very sad. Yes.
So, Senator Mike Lee gave a speech earlier where he was talking about how when the Department of Defense and Department of Homeland Security chairs and whatever other officials that they were talking to the senators, and they didn't give convincing information that the strike on Soleimani was necessary for national security purposes, regardless of how horrible of a person Soleimani was. And one of the things that he said is that the executive branch basically told the senators that you're not allowed to debate these things, and that if you do, that you're un-American, and that you don't really stand for national security if you are against these things. And basically that's what the executive branch is saying is that, no, Article 1 doesn't matter, the legislators don't matter, and the override and the voices of individual voters in states do not matter because the executive branch says otherwise from a bunch of unelected bureaucrats. What is it that you specifically could do in pushing this conversation to make so that Article 1 matters not just when it's opposing President Trump from the Democratic side or opposing whatever Democrat it is from the Republican side? How can we make this a consistent issue across all parties and not just from the Libertarian Party?
Great question. Someone told me about Mike Lee giving this rant after he came out of the official briefing, and so I YouTubed it. It's worth it. It's I think 5 or 6 minutes long. It's worth it. A Republican senator from Utah, and saying exactly what the gentleman said here, that here they are accusing us of being un-American if we ask questions about getting us deeper into these foreign entanglements. A Republican going on a rant saying I was insulted by this briefing. I recommend it. Pop it up on your YouTube. And that's how we got into Iraq. You say, how did it ever happen? Saddam Hussein didn't even have a helicopter or a tanker. The fact that he might have nuclear weapons was just beyond belief. Too big, the dictator in the desert somewhere threatening the United States of America. It happened because of exactly what you're saying. We were accused of being un-American. The fear and anger were ramped up every day. Orange alerts, yellow alerts, red alerts. Getting people scared. They're coming down, right down here, Concord. They're coming down 93. Here comes Saddam Hussein with his mushroom clouds. And we're in a time of America that we got to fight back, and it's the Libertarian Party that's best suited to do that. We've been consistent all along. No foreign entanglements, not the other two parties. And Joe, running for office here, I read her paper on the paper. Good, yeah, or Switzerland or wherever we want to be. Somebody's got to say, no more of this is absurdity. It's against our best interest. I see taxation as theft. Boy, is it ever theft when we're spending it to hurt ourselves. Mm-hmm. With what we're doing with these wars. They're not in our long-term best interest. We're losing allies, we're losing friends around the world by spending our taxpayer dollars.
So,
anybody else?
No, I've already asked already.
I know you have other business to do. I don't want to get too angry here. Okay, yes?
Oh, come to the
good
mic.
questions.
I'm told to come to the mic now. All right. So I was wondering, I guess, you're obviously against the wars. This is what we've been focusing on most of this time here. Do you have any, specific type of, draw out strategy or withdrawal strategy for these places, or are you more along the lines of what Ron Paul said, where he was the best way to pull them out is to just get on planes and come back to America?
Good question. Good question. I struggle with that. What would I do if ever given the opportunity? And I think the best answer is we do live on a planet. Other countries do exist in this world. And the best way to confront this enormous challenge of extricating ourselves from this counterproductive, expensive situation we're in is work with the other countries and see what's in our best interest. We always have some skepticism of who might want to benefit by what we do, have that natural skepticism, but still work with them, hear what they have to say. The Iran nuclear deal, whether you're for or against it, was put together with the United Kingdom, with France, with Germany, with Iran, with the United States, with China, with Russia. They were all at the table. That was only a few years ago, so get people at the table and listen, be skeptical, and then try and make good decisions. But definitely stop the lies.
So, Mr. Chaffee, given your resume, I would expect that you fully understand the Constitution of the United States, and to a lesser degree, respect the states. I have a question that you dodged the other day when you were talking with Kennedy, which is regarding Second
Get a little
Amendment.
closer to the microphone.
Which is regarding Second Amendment. And my question is, the right of the people appears several times in the Bill of Rights. It seems to be presumed that the right of the people to keep and bear arms has been usurped under the Dick Act to be the right of the government to employ the National Guard under lock and key of the elected officials is the correct interpretation of the people, contrary to the First, Fourth, Eighth, Ninth, 10th Amendments, where you will be the right of the people as us, the corpus populi. What's your position on the Second Amendment, unequivocally?
I do have votes that up to scrutiny on the Second Amendment. And what has changed? People say, well, how can you change from some of those votes you've taken in the past? What has changed to today, where I'm in full support of the Second Amendment, is that more and more people legitimately, across America, even in Rhode Island, a very liberal democratic state, might be the most democratic state in the country, very legitimately do not trust their government. And that's why they wrote the First Amendment, the Fourth Amendment, the Second Amendment. You read those words. Why did they write these words? For the eventuality when we don't trust our government. And I just heard it in Rhode Island a day before yesterday, buying a candy bar at the convenience store. The guy says, I want my AR-15 because I don't trust the government.
Do you see this being something where it is a similar
He was
issue?
a former libertarian. He recognized me when I came in.
Do you see this as an issue that unites the left and the right?
It's evolving. It's
both
evolving.
essentially
As I say,
don't
even in
work.
Rhode Island, I never heard Second Amendment in my 30-year career in Rhode Island in politics. But you hear it more and more.
Okay. You owe me money.
Do you think that all drugs should be legal for adult consumption?
The war on drugs is a huge failure and an expensive failure. And these are individual decisions. And the 10th Amendment does say anything not written in the Constitution is reserved for the states. And the states are doing a good job on this, decriminalizing around the country. So Colorado and Washington. And as governor, I worked with the governor of Washington to reschedule some of these bad scheduling of how they classify medically beneficial drugs.
Well, the problem I
I have
have
a good record on that.
the problem I have with the localization argument is that it's often used just as well and effectively in favor of authoritarian arguments when we hear some people argue that it can only be used towards libertarian ends. I just don't find that to be the case. So I guess I'll just ask again, do you think all drugs should be legal for adult consumption, yes or no?
That's an evolving process, and we're starting from people filling our prisons with are expensively filling our prisons for their own nonviolent use. So some of these issues I'm evolving on, but you can never question my commitment to keeping us out of these expensive conflicts and protecting our civil liberties. That's where we've joined together. And some of these other issues is, should fentanyl be available at your CBS.
Yes.
Yes.
I'm evolving on and listening. I hear you.
CBS.
Let's keep our people out of our prisons, though.
Thank you, Governor.
Thank you very much.
We've run out
Enjoy
of
being
time
here with you.
for our
Yes.
break. It's time to start the debate. Thank you for coming.
Thank you.